The Queen's Birthday Honours 1967 were appointments by many of the Commonwealth realms of Queen Elizabeth II to various orders and honours to reward and highlight good works by citizens of those countries. On the occasion of the official birthday of the Queen, they were announced in supplements to the London Gazette of 2 June 1967. At this time, honours for Australians were awarded both in the United Kingdom honours on the advice of the premiers of Australian states, and also in a separate Australia honours list. Recipients of honours are displayed here as they were styled before the new honours. United Kingdom. Life Peer Baron Sir William John Caron, President, Amalgamated Engineering Union. Alderman Llewellyn Haycock, C.B.E. J.P.D.L., Chairman, Education Committee, Glamorgan County Council. Sir John Prum at Redcliffe Maudsley, C.B.E. Master of University College, Oxford. Sir William George Penny, K.B.E. Chairman, United Kingdom Atomic Energy Authority. Privy Councillor the Honourable Arthur Augustus Caldwell, formerly leader of the Federal Parliamentary Labour Party, Australia. Sir Dingle Mackintosh Foote, QC MP, Solicitor General since 1964. Eustace George Willis, ESQ, MP, Minister of State, Scottish Office, 1964 to 1967. George Woodcock, ESQ, C.B.E. General Secretary, Trades Union Congress. Knight Bachelor Norris Montgomery Agnew, ESQ, C.B.E. Lately Chairman, Board of Governors, United Manchester Hospitals. Peter Christopher Allen, ESQ, Chairman, Committee for Exports to Canada, British National Export Council. Professor John Henry Bigot, C.B.E. M.D. F. RCP, Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, Queen's University, Belfast. Herbert Vernon Bonner, ESQ, C.B.E. Chairman and Managing Director, Lowe and Bonner Group Limited, Dundee. Frederick Herbert Stanley Brown, ESQ, C.B.E. Chairman, Central Electricity Generating Board. Major General Charles James George Dalton, C.B.E. Controller, Zoological Society of London. Paul Christopher Davy, ESQ, Remembrancer of the City of London. Clifford Alfred Dove, ESQ, C.B.E. R.D. Director General, Mersey Docks and Harbour Board. Donald Keith Faulkner, ESQ, Director, Royal College of Music. David Henry Follett, ESQ, Director and Secretary, Science Museum. Frederick Gibbard, ESQ, C.B.E. Architect. John Leighton Jarvis, ESQ, for services to horse racing. Edward Martin Furnivall Jones, ESQ, C.B.E. Attached Ministry of Defence. Cecil Mead, ESQ, lately Chairman and Chief Executive, International Computers and Tabulators Limited, for services to export. Oswald Bernard Miller, ESQ, Chairman, John Lewis Partnership Limited. Walter Thomas Monington, ESQ, President, Royal Academy of Arts. Professor Ronald Sidney Nyholm, Head of Department of Chemistry, University College, London. George Reginald Pope, ESQ, for services to newspaper management. Paul Riley, ESQ, Director, Council of Industrial Design. William Rendell, ESQ, General Manager, Commonwealth Development Corporation. John Eric Richardson, ESQ, C.B.E. Director of Education, The Polytechnic, London. William Robert Richardson, ESQ, Editor, Sunday Citizen and Reynolds News. Ashton Wentworth Roskell, ESQ, QC Chairman, Monopolies Commission. Robert James Sainsbury, ESQ, for services to the arts. Charles Hilary Scott, ESQ, President, The Law Society. Chairman, National Film Finance Corporation. George Edward Scott, ESQ, C.B.E. Chief Constable, West Riding of Yorkshire Constabulary. Alderman Frank Augustus Small, C.B.E.D.L., lately Chairman, Nottinghamshire County Council. Walter Richard Trehane, ESQ, Chairman, Milk Marketing Board for England and Wales. Aubrey Ernest Ward, ESQ, Commodore. J.P.D.L., Chairman, Buckinghamshire County Council. Leslie Hugh Wilson, ESQ, O.B.E. Architect and Planning Consultant. Charles Morris Young, ESQ, C.B.E. President, Scottish Marine Biological Association. Frederick Joseph Clark, ESQ, L. RCP.L. RCS, Governor, St. Lucia. Wilfred Ebenezer Jacobs, ESQ, O.B.E. QC, Governor, Antigua. John Valentine Jardine Patterson, ESQ, British Subject Resident in India. Fred Albert Phillips, ESQ, C.V.O. Governor, St. Christopher Nevis Anguilla. Australian State of New South Wales John Cadwallader, ESQ, for services to commerce. His Honour Judge Adrian Herbert Lewis, C.B.E. for services to the community. Frank Schofield McDowell, ESQ, for services to the community. State of Victoria the Honourable John Stoughton Bloomfield Q.C., lately Minister of Education. James Alexander Forrest, ESQ, for services to the community. The Honourable Ronald William Mack, President, Legislative Council of Victoria. State of Queensland George Reid Fisher, ESQ, C.M.G. for services to the Australian mining and metallurgical industries. State of Western Australia Claude Hodgson, ESQ, O.B.E. for services to art in the state of Western Australia. State of Tasmania Basil Osborne, ESQ, C.B.E. Lord Mayor of Hobart. Order of the Bath Knight Grand Cross of the Order of the Bath General Sir John Hackett, K.C.B. C.B.E.D. S.O.M.C. Honorary Colonel, 10th Battalion, the Parachute Regiment. Sir Richard Royal Powell, K.C.B. K.B.E.C. M.G. Permanent Secretary, Board of Trade. Knight Commander of the Order of the Bath Vice Admiral John Osley Chattock Hayes, C.B.O. B.E. Lieutenant General Derek Boileau Lang, C.B.D. S.O.M.C. Late Infantry. Lieutenant General Thomas Cecil Hook Pearson, C.B.C. B.E.D. S.O. Late Infantry. Acting Air Marshal Edward Gordon Jones, C.B.C. B.E.D. S.O.D. F.C. Royal Air Force. Dennis Charles Barnes, ESQ, C.B. Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Labour. Companion of the Order of the Bath. Military Division Rear Admiral John Harold Adams, M.V. Rear Admiral Anthony Templar Frederick Griffith Griffin. Rear Admiral David Walter Kirk, C.B.E. Rear Admiral Patrick John Morgan, D.Sc. Rear Admiral Richard Collins Page. Rear Admiral Edmund Nicholas Poland, C.B.E. Rear Admiral George Stephen Ritchie, D.Sc. Rear Admiral Ottokar Harold Moemir St. John Steiner. Rear Admiral Cyril Hubert Surtees Wise, M.B.E. Major General William Douglas Elms Brown, C.B.E.D. S.O. Late Royal Regiment of Artillery. Major General Ian Rollo Graham, O.B.E. Late Royal Regiment of Artillery. Major General John Harrington, O.B.E. Late Royal Regiment of Artillery. Major General Henry Anthony Lascelles, C.B.E.D. S.O. Late Royal Armoured Corps R.A.R.O. Major General John Sheffield, C.B.E. Royal Army Ordnance Corps. Major General John Bramley Mallard Sloan, C.B.E. Late Infantry. Major General Harry Stewart Wood, T.D. Late Royal Regiment of Artillery, R.A.R.O. Air Vice Marshal William Daniel Desprez, C.B.E.A. F.C. Royal Air Force. Air Vice Marshal Alan Donald Frank, C.B.E.D. S.O.D. F.C. Royal Air Force. Air Vice Marshal Harold Kagan, C.B.E.Q., HDSL, DS Royal Air Force. Air Commodore John Alexander Carlisle Aiken, Royal Air Force. Air Commodore Jefferson Herbert Greswell, C.B.E.D., SOD, FC, Royal Air Force. Air Commodore Ronald George Knott D., SOD, FCA, FC, Royal Air Force. Air Commodore Peter Henry Roscoe, Royal Air Force. Air Commodore Edmund Arthur Stockwell, Royal Air Force. Civil Division George Robert Downs, ESQ. Director of Postal Services, General Post Office. John Francis Embling, ESQ. Deputy Under-Secretary of State, Department of Education and Science. Hugh Robert MacDonald Farmer, ESQ. Clerk Administrator, House of Commons Services. Christopher Willoughby Jardine, ESQ. Under-Secretary, Board of Trade. Gerard Hamilton McConnell, ESQ. Assistant Under-Secretary of State, Home Office. Stephen Snowmanier, ESQ. Under-Secretary, Ministry of Social Security. Derek Jack Mitchell, ESQ, C.V.O. Deputy Under-Secretary of State, Department of Economic Affairs. Nicholas Godfrey Morrison, ESQ. Assistant Under-Secretary of State, Ministry of Defense. William Henry Penley, ESQ, C.B.E. Deputy Controller of Electronics, Ministry of Technology. Edwal Vaughan Pugh, ESQ. Deputy Secretary, Ministry of Housing and Local Government. Herbert Hugh Rutter, ESQ. Lately Principal Assistant Solicitor, Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food. Anthony Nathaniel Stainton, ESQ. Parliamentary Counsel to H.M. Treasury. Daniel Stewart Watson, ESQ, O.B.E. Chief Scientific Officer, Ministry of Defense. William Lawrence Wilson, ESQ, O.B.E. Chief Mechanical and Electrical Engineer, Ministry of Public Building and Works. Order of St. Michael and St. George. Knight Grand Cross of the Order of St. Michael and St. George Sir Charles Arthur Evelyn Shuckbrough, K. CMG, CB, Her Majesty's Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary at Rome. Knight Commander of the Order of St. Michael and St. George Dawson Donaldson, ESQ. Chairman, Commonwealth Telecommunications Board. John Mellier Stevens, ESQ. D. SOO.BETD, Economic Minister and Head of the U.K. Treasury and Supply Delegation, Washington. Robert Burley, ESQ, C.M.G. for International Services to Education. Dennis Arthur Greenhill, ESQ, C.M.G. O.B.E. Deputy Under-Secretary of State, Foreign Office. Leonard James Hooper, ESQ, C.M.G. C.B.E. Director, Government Communications Headquarters. Noel Duncan Watson, ESQ, C.M.G. Lately Commonwealth Office. Companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George Roy Arthur Odell Bridge, ESQ. Advisor to the Governor of the Bank of England. Herbert Aubrey Cole, ESQ. Director of Fisheries Research, Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food. William Bullafag, ESQ. Deputy Keeper, Department of Ethnography, British Museum. The Honourable William Fraser, O.B.E.T.D.A. Managing Director, British Petroleum Company Limited. Walter Wynne Mason, ESQ, M.C. Director of External Relations and Records, Commonwealth War Graves Commission. Raymond Spencer Millard, ESQ. Deputy Director, Road Research Laboratory, Ministry of Transport. Brigadier Ernest Cecil Pepper, C.B.E.D., S.O.D.L., lately Warden of London House. Christopher Francis Robert Barclay, ESQ, Foreign Office. David Vere Bendel, ESQ, M.B.E. Counselor, Her Majesty's Embassy, Washington. Colonel Frederick Manus de Butts, O.B.E. Commander, Trucial Oman Scouts. Nigel David Clive ESQO, BEMCTD, Foreign Office, Commonwealth Office. John Spencer Ritchie Duncan ESQM, BE, Diplomatic Service Administration Office. Stuart Leslie Edwards ESQ, Minister, Her Majesty's Embassy, Bonn. Joseph Stanley Ellis ESQ, BE, Commonwealth Office. Horace James Fitzpatrick ESQ, BE, lately Chairman, Currency and Exchange Board, Bermuda. Arthur Temple Franks ESQ, Foreign Office. Christopher Martin Peary Gordon ESQ, BE, Her Majesty's Consul, Florence. James Dennis Grieg ESQ, Financial Secretary, Mauritius. Robert Douglas Christopher McAlpine ESQ, Counselor, Her Majesty's Embassy, Mexico City. Theophilus Peters ESQ, Counselor, Her Majesty's Embassy, Peking. Clive Martin Rose ESQ, Counselor, Her Majesty's Embassy, Paris. Norman Statham ESQ, Foreign Office. John Debenham Taylor ESQ, BE, Foreign Office. Arthur Gerald Touch ESQ, Government Communications Headquarters. Arthur John Wilton ESQ, M.C., Deputy High Commissioner, Aden. Australian State of New South Wales Alexis Francois Albert ESQ, V.R.D., for services to the community, especially to the blind. State of Victoria Ian Francis Beaurepaire ESQ, Lord Mayor of Melbourne. State of Queensland Harold Garfield Bean ESQ, M.B.E. for services in the field of local government and to the welfare of the grazing industry. State of South Australia Gilbert Frederick Seaman ESQ, Under Treasurer for the State of South Australia. Royal Victorian Order, Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order Sir Thomas Innes of Lerney, K.C.V.O. Knight Commander of the Royal Victorian Order Major General Edmund Haig Will Smith, C.B.C. B.E.M.C. John Valentine Meach ESQ, C.V.O. Commander of the Royal Victorian Order Major Sir Ralph Hugo Anstruther B.T.M.C. Robert Alexander Forrester ESQ, Major the Honourable Francis Michael Lee M.V.O. Neville Egerton Lee ESQ, Major James Rennie Maudsley M.V.O. M.B.E. Henry George Pinnock ESQ M.V.O. Major General Harvey Deg Wilmot Sitwell C.B.M.C. Sir Richard Snedden C.B.E. Member of the Royal Victorian Order. At this time the two lowest classes of the Royal Victorian Order were Member and Member, both with post-nominal letters MVO. Member was renamed Lieutenant from the 1985 New Year Honours onwards. 4th Class Major Simon Claude Michael Bland, Commander Ian Rodney Bowden, Royal Navy. Colin Gilbraith ESQ, Major Arthur John Stuart Griffin, Bernard John Hesketh ESQ, Commander John Leonard Lees, Royal Navy. Miss Olive Margaret Short M.V.O. 5th Class Ernest William Cave ESQ, Sydney Samuel Hames, Wing Commander Eric Edward Lake, Royal Air Force. Roger Ivan Mutimer ESQ, George Jameson Thompson ESQ. Royal Victorian Medal Miss Irene Ida Anthony, Edward George Bailey, Frank Bentley, Chief Shipwright Artificer Arthur Owen Brown, Walter Collier, Robert Davies, Chief Petty Officer William Anthony Dobson, John Samuel Gray, Alfred Harwood, Miss Mary Emma Jones, Henry Thomas Mitchell, Stanley Wilfred Roblew, Cyril Simpkins, Yeoman Bedhanger John Edward Tompkins, Her Majesty's Bodyguard of the Yeoman of the Guard, Miss Florence Wade, James Young. Order of the British Empire Knight Grand Cross of the Order of the British Empire General Sir John Anderson, K.C.B.C. B.E.D. S.O.A.D.C. Colonel, 5th Inniskilling Dragoon Guards, Colonel Commandant, Royal Army Educational Corps, Sir Robert Ian Bellinger, Lord Mayor of London. Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire Air Commandant Pauline Giles, RCQ, HNS, Princess Mary's Royal Air Force Nursing Service. Marjorie Irene, Mrs. Corbett Ashby, Honorary President, International Alliance of Women, Honorary President, British Commonwealth League, the Right Honourable Marjorie Minna, Countesses of Brecknock, Superintendent-in-Chief, St John Ambulance Brigade, Miss Beryl Paston Brown, Principal, Homerton College of Education, Cambridge. Miss Ivy Compton Burnett, C.B.E. Writer, Miss Gladys Constance Cooper, Actress, Miss Helen Louise Gardner, C.B.E. Merton Professor of English Literature, University of Oxford. Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire Vice Admiral John Michael Dudgeon Gray, CBO, B.E. Vice Admiral Horace Collier Liddon, CBO, B.E. Major General Raymond Douglas Coate, CB, Royal Army Pay Corps. Air Marshal George Roygun, CBO, BEQ, HPMB, CHB, Royal Air Force. Professor Hedley John Barnard Atkins, D. M.F., RCS, President, Royal College of Surgeons of England. Cecil Joseph Bateman, ESQ, M.B.E., Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance, Northern Ireland and Head of the Northern Ireland Civil Service. Arthur James Stephen Brown, ESQ, President, Confederation of British Industry. Australian State of Queensland The Honourable William George Albert Mack, Chief Justice of the State of Queensland. Order of the Companions of Honour Sir Arthur Wynne Morgan Bryant, C.B.E. Historian, Brigadier General Sir Harold Hartley, CVO, C.B.E. M.C. for services in scientific and public affairs. The Right Honourable James Scott Cumberland Baron Reid, a Lord of Appeal in Ordinary. New Zealand, Knight Bachelor George Manning CMG of Christchurch, for public services, especially to education and local government. Order of the Bath, Knight Commander of the Order of the Bath Military Division Lieutenant General Leonard Whitmore Thornton CBCBE, Chief of Defence Staff, New Zealand Armed Forces. Order of St Michael and St George, Companion of the Order of St Michael and St George Albert William Lilly PhD MB of Auckland, for valuable services to medicine. Denzel Anthony Seaver Ward of Wellington, for services as Law Draftsman and compiler of statutes. Order of the British Empire, Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire Civil Division Edward Dennis Blundell OBE of Wellington, for services to the legal profession. Commander of the Order of the British Empire Civil Division James Thomas Andrews of Wellington, for valuable services in the fields of banking and economic research. John Sims Meadowcroft of Sumu, for services to commerce and the textile trade. Alan Meredith Satterthwaite of Christchurch, for services to tourism, commercial and financial affairs. Leonard George Hurst and Sinclair J.P. of Auckland, Stipendiary Magistrate. Military Division Brigadier Bertrand Reed Harbour Lot Brigadiers List. Officer of the Order of the British Empire Civil Division Mrs. Hilda Kathleen Burks J.P. of Lower Hutt, for valuable services in the field of social and local affairs. Captain Alexander Royal Champion J.P. Harbour Master of Littleton. Lawson Listener Copeland Field J.P. of Gisborne, for valuable services to farming. Albert Hughley of Christchurch, for services to farming and teaching. David Forsyth of Dunedin, for services to education; Alfred George Honor JP, Mayor of New Plymouth; Arthur Lee Hunt of Wellington, for valuable services to the community; Frederick Campbell Johnston JP of Fatafata, for services to the pastoral industry; Henare Koharinata of Gisborne, for services to the Maori people; John Addis Redwood of Auckland, for services to the community, especially in connection with the care of old people; the Reverend William Morton Ryburn of Auckland, for outstanding services as Presbyterian missionary and educationist. Military Division Commander Neil Dudley Anderson, Royal New Zealand Navy; Colonel Tristan Freitas Hegelin Ed, Royal New Zealand Infantry Regiment; Wing Commander David Ewan Jameson, Royal New Zealand Air Force. Member of the Order of the British Empire Civil Division James Herries Beattie of Waimate, for services to historical research in New Zealand; Edward Coventry Bida MBCHB of Takaka, for services to the community; Mrs. Jessie Duggan Dalgleish of Raratihi, for services to nursing; Mrs. Grace Farrell of Westport, for services to the community; Frederick Christoph Jurgens of Bulls, for services to the farming community; Miss Irene May Casemore Lassen of Christchurch, for services to music; William Douglas Lattimore, Mayor of Balclutha; Lionel Deacon Lees of Tauranga, for services to the community and local government; Miss Florence Mary Morton Lowe of Wellington, for services to the community in welfare and local body work; Mrs. Sabina Agnes Martin, for services to the community, especially as supervisor of the Nelson Occupation Center, and in the field of education of intellectually handicapped children; Eric Joseph Naylor JP of Oamaru, for services to the community, especially as chairman of the Vincent Hospital Board; Alan North MBCHB of Via Rotorua, for services to medicine and to the Maori people; Mrs. Ellen Elizabeth Pickering of Masterton, for services to the community; Leslie Bowden Quatermain of Wellington, for services to the community, especially to youth and to the New Zealand Antarctic Society; Hubert Arthur Tony Cliff of Timaru, for services to education and local government; Mrs. Rose Evelyn Townshend of Pigton, for services to the community and local government; Mrs. Ellen Margaret Utley of Wanganui, for services to the community in welfare and local affairs; Miss Alice May Walton of Auckland, for services to nursing; Edward Wellesley Wise JP of Leven, for services to local government, particularly as Mayor of Eastbourne Borough Council. Military Division Lieutenant Commander Neil Lawrence Merrick, Royal Navy; Major Douglas Joe Dunn, Royal New Zealand Electrical and Mechanical Engineers; Captain Leonard Donald Grant, Royal New Zealand Infantry Regiment; Captain Morris David Stanley, Royal New Zealand Artillery; Flight Lieutenant Martin David Burns, Royal New Zealand Air Force; Warrant Officer Collis Litchfield Anderson, Royal New Zealand Air Force; Warrant Officer Roy Edward Spencer, Royal New Zealand Air Force. Companion of the Imperial Service Order Gordon Owen Lindsay Dempster, lately Director of Public Health. British Empire Medal for Gallantry, Civil Division Patrick John O'Donovan, Detective Sergeant, New Zealand Police, for exceptional skill, coolness, perseverance and courage in obtaining a confession of murder from a man who was in possession of a loaded rifle and intermittently threatening to shoot. Civil Division David Barrett JP, for services to the community of Conchurch; William Reginald Burke JP, for services to the community of Kaukopikopa; Jack Davies, for services to the community of Wellington; Mrs. Harriet Davy, for services to Meals on Wheels scheme in Dunedin; Alan Percy Farmer, Forest Ranger, New Zealand Forest Service; Miss Joan Hopkins Hastings, Instructor, Chief Post Office, Auckland; Herbert James Kerr, coxswain of the Sumner lifeboat. James Nicholas, for services to the community of Blenheim, especially in connection with hospital visiting. Tehico Miller Ormsby, Engineers Assistant, New Zealand Electricity Department. Albert William Robertson, Engine Driver, New Zealand Railways. Brian James Stewart, Detective Sergeant, New Zealand Police. Military Division Master-at-Arms Tutor Denny, Royal New Zealand Navy. Chief Engine Room Artificer Rex Edward Lincoln, Royal New Zealand Navy. Stores Chief Petty Officer Raymond Hurst Smith, Royal New Zealand Navy. Mechanician First Class Raymond Vernon Stevens, Royal New Zealand Navy. Sergeant James Michael Benyon, Royal New Zealand Army Medical Corps. Staff Sergeant Henry Cherrington, Royal New Zealand Army Education Corps. Warrant Office Class 2 John Donald Desmond, Royal New Zealand Infantry Regiment. Flight Sergeant Albert Desmond McNichol, Royal New Zealand Air Force. Flight Sergeant Christopher Walter Mays, Royal New Zealand Air Force. Flight Sergeant Alfred Charles Webster, Royal New Zealand Air Force. Air Force Cross Squadron Leader Geoffrey Wallingford, Royal New Zealand Air Force. Flight Lieutenant Brian Kenneth Bassett, Royal New Zealand Air Force. Queen's Police Medal Fergus Oliver Scott, Chief Superintendent, New Zealand Police Force. Queen's Commendation for Valuable Service in the Air Squadron Leader Albert Edward Thompson, Royal New Zealand Air Force.